welcome back to another fantastic episode here on ReikiCafe Radio. I am your host for today, Isabel Wells, and I am so excited for today's episode because Christine and I are doing something a little bit different. We're actually going to be interviewing each other for the podcast, and I'm so excited to hear from Christine and have her share her amazing story and her amazing light with all of you. So welcome, Christine.
Absolutely. I'm excited for this too, because so often people want to know about my story and history. And it's like, you get little clips in the Reiki Cafe community and you get little clips on our reels and all those kinds of things. And, but now you can just go to one spot on Reiki Cafe Radio. And like, here's the actual, here's the in-depth story.
Yes. And I say it all the time, but I think we really do find solidarity and healing when we hear other people's stories. So I'm so excited for you to be a guest on your own podcast today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
But I would love to start by just having you share, how did you get to where you are today?
That's a big question. That's a really big question. And, I often say what really has made me who I am today is my ex-husband, which is really surprising for some, but I had to be kicked around quite a bit and, be a doormat for a really long time so that I could understand and recreate myself as the independent, strong woman that I am today. And so I had, my first marriage was really difficult and I was very young, and my husband at the time was 18 years my senior, which is like, that's just, now looking at it at 41, I'm like, that's just wrong. It's just not okay. And there was a lot of obvious red flags like that. And yet I needed to walk through it. Like, I feel like spirit put me in that position on purpose to go through those hardships and have a child within it so that I could wake up, so I could become who I needed to be to serve the community that I serve. So it played out had a lot of past life resolution through the healing process of that marriage and divorce. It had a very strong pull to bring this child through, which was in really difficult circumstances, and we were very much in poverty. And I really feel like that all of it, like even divorcing and getting remarried and trying to start my own life, and then really hitting a dark night of my soul. Like, I have had the urge and the knowingness that Reiki was my calling for as long as I can remember. And yet I denied it until I could get to the point of that dark night of the soul of going, like, someone's got to die in this, or I've got to choose myself. I've got to surrender all attachments to my mama bear strength and like trying to protect my son. I've got to let it all go and choose me and my self-care and my healing story and start saying yes to where the divine is leading me. And that's when things really changed. But I needed all of that. And I think that is where, I hope to be an inspiration for others, going, it's okay to have those dark moments. It's okay to be in abusive relationships and say, you know what, I'm no longer available for this, and then heal and learn through the process so that you can become your most empowered self. And to know that it's part of your journey, it's part of your healing story, and we can use that to inspire others.
So I'm curious, in that situation that brought you to that really dark place where you did have to surrender, what happened to create that transition from being in this abusive relationship to being where you are today?
It started with hearing the language of my ex use towards me with my son present. So the emotional abuse that I received, and like, my son is going to learn how to talk to women like that, and it's not okay. That was really like a big aha moment for me. It wasn't for me, it was for my son. I was still not at the point of choosing myself. I was choosing divorce because it would benefit my son. He would be better off if he didn't learn how to talk to women that way. And so yeah, that was kind of like what kind of said, okay, I need to get out. And then I also had a a counselor at the time who also happened to be a shamanic practitioner. And she taught me how to shamanic journey while all this was going on. I didn't even know I wanted a divorce, but she taught me how to meet my spirit guides and my power animals, and how to do direct revelation, and how to ask questions to my team. And they were all there, like just supporting me along the way, knowing that this was a journey I needed to go through.
Yeah, my mom was in an abusive relationship when I was younger too, and she shared a similar story, that it didn't take anything coming at her for her to make that switch, but something that was directed toward myself or my brother. And I think that's really powerful, but also I'm curious because again, now you are so good at choosing yourself and standing in your truth. Was there a moment that you remember making that first decision solely for yourself?
Well, it was giving up custody of my son, like knowing that he was going to be in an emotionally abusive environment, and still saying, I have to do this. I have to. I won't survive unless they say yes to me. And that was probably one of the most difficult decisions of my life. And he survived. And you ask him about it now, and he doesn't even remember. He doesn't even remember how long it was. He couldn't tell you if it was 1 week, 2 years. Like, he has no recollection. And the whole time he was in counseling, so like he's been in counseling since he was age 3, and he's very well adjusted because he was processing his trauma as he was going through it. And so I give gratitude for myself to saying I can still say yes to me, and knowing that he has professional help, and that he chose this family for a reason. His soul chose this circumstance and this family for a reason, and that he's got karmic and soul agreements and all these things that his soul needs to work through. And that it's not all my fault. I'm not going to take all of the responsibility of his trauma when in fact he signed up for it. And so like, and he has learned so much, and now he's 16 and a half, and he studies, mindset work and like psychology. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to end up a counselor or something else to help people. And it's like, it's all good. It's all meant to be the way it was supposed to be. And I don't have to hold and carry guilt over that.
You've spoken on here before about mom guilt and that concept of having to give away all of yourself for your kids. And I suspect that there might be some emotions coming up in our audience from your answer just then. So I would love to know a little bit more about where that line really is for you, because I know you really are an advocate for moms having to take care of themselves and put themselves first, even though that's so counter to the culture that we see today around parenting.
Well, and I think that's it. Like, it's our culture that says that we have to be the primary caretakers, that we have to sacrifice and give and give and give and give and give. When in actuality, culturally speaking, it wasn't that long ago that we had the village mentality, that we lived in like the clan setting where you had family all around you. This whole idea of separation of the family unit and the, extended family unit has only happened in the last century. So, a part of me is like, I just want to, oppose that. Like, no, moms and, a 4-person family unit, mom, dad, and 2 kids, like that was a construct of post-World War II. It wasn't like that before then. So us trying to hold on to this model of this is what it's supposed to be like, moms have to be everything. I'm like, that wasn't a sustainable model. that model had moms on speed in the 50s, like trying to get everything done and not being satisfied. Well, why? Because, they were actually productive in war times. They were out, working their asses off. And then their men come home and now they're stuck and they have to be given a job, and that's in the household and given them these strong gender roles. So I kind of oppose the whole thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm choosing to move into a co-housing community. It's once again a village-like setting. It might not be my family, it's chosen family, where we're eating dinners together, we're having meals together, we can support one another, and it's multi-generational. There's going to be newborns to people in their 80s, and we can all support one another. And that I really feel like I love that Danish model, that model of like we can all still have common meals and support one another. So I really, I like to look at what culture says we're supposed to do, because oftentimes it's made up by the institutions to keep us stuck in a certain place, whether that's financially or emotionally or spiritually or otherwise, to benefit them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really do bring that forward even into your practice, right? Which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I'm curious because you were talking about, that idea that your son chose you as his soul family and these traumas are things that he came into. Is that a perspective that you had at the time that you made the decision to give up custody, or did that come later?
I think I was so in the richness of anxiety that I probably couldn't pop out to that crown point of view to really see it until later. So that probably came after with doing shamanic journeys to our Akashic records, to talking with my guides and them giving me a higher perspective that I needed to see this situation as. But when you're in the thick of depression, when you're in the thick of anxiety, it is sometimes very difficult to see the bigger, broader picture because you're so tunnel visioned in your own experience. Right. And so my guess is, because I don't particularly remember, this was like, I want to say like 15 years ago at this point, or maybe not that long ago. It was probably more like 13 years ago, but it still feels like I was very in the tunnel of it and could only make one decision at a time. So just choosing me was the one decision I could possibly make.
Yeah.
That was with having a toddler around, and that was with, like I had other things going on and just going, I can't do this any longer. I'm no longer available to be called by the police or, do the drama. And I think since then, the more I can cancel out anywhere there's drama, I do so. Even to the point of television shows, I don't watch a lot of anything that causes me to experience anxiety or tension or suspense. I don't need that in my life. I'm looking for joy and peace. So why would I allow my energy to be pulled into it? Right. So I just have that energetic awareness of like, where's my energy at? And is it serving me?
Yeah. And I think that's such an important point of, we are all aware of the importance of nutrition and the food that we eat, but our energetic intake is also incredibly important in who we speak to and how we speak to them and what we watch and what we consume with books and music and all of it. So I love that perspective. But so you were in this abusive relationship, you got the divorce, you let go of custody of your son, and you were with this counselor who was a shamanic practitioner and was teaching you all of those techniques. And in 13 years now, you're here, very successful with your Reiki business and your community and your family and moving into this co-housing community. That's a big difference in 13 years. So what happened next in that journey?
So it was soon after I just had committed, if it's not Reiki and meditation, I'm not doing it. So when I had that dark night of the soul, I didn't go back to any kind of 9-to-5 job. I refused. And in that going, okay, well, what is in my means to make an income? And from there, it was like, I think I was attending the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship here in Bozeman, Montana. And they had an auction for fundraising event. And I put a Reiki session as my donation. That was the first time I got not only just that one client, but like I saw her every week for 3 years. And it just gave me the hint of, actually that happened even before, because I was just going through boxes and boxes of memories. I got that client when I was married to my first husband. Mm-hmm. And so it was these little things that I was starting to do to say yes to Reiki as a possibility, yes to having Reiki circles, yes to me in some capacity. And so when I went through the divorce, had the baby, got remarried, all of the things, and had this dark night of the soul, it was really like, okay, I need to really start diving into my personal healing. And so I really did a deep dive on the chakras. So if you'll notice, ReikiCafe University, from our logo to all of our courses, has a ton of chakra information. And it's because it was the key to my own self-healing journey, was that self-examination through the lens of the chakras. And so understanding what they are and how they affect your energy and how they can help you heal, not only on the energetic side, but also on the emotional and physical side, really was where things started to shift for me. And because at the time I was diagnosed with an autoimmune, I had layers upon layers upon layers of like health issues and emotional issues and all of these things. And so I had to start healing myself. And so in that journey of really understanding the chakras and how they could support my healing, I started offering shamanic journey meditations at a yoga studio. And it was that kind of opened up the world of like starting to see clients. And I've been always very lucky. Not luck is not the right word. I don't really trust luck. I'm always been supported by divine intercession on studio spaces and just making them available when I need them. And so they're like where I was teaching the shamanic journey meditations, they had a studio available. Then the next studio was available. Then I became like a co-owner of a yoga workshop. Like I always had space. And it was always like within my means, meaning like I was slowly growing, but I grew with the size that I felt comfortable with. So even as, like I think my last brick and mortar studio, the owner of the building was actually one of my Reiki master students, and her whole family were Reiki students of mine. And so they gifted me the studio space to use for over a year for free. I just made manifest all the time. I'm in alignment to be able to receive the generosity of others, to do the good work, to help people in their healing process, to be their mentors, to be their guide, to be their Reiki practitioner, to help them through their healing process. And I just began to trust more and more and more and more with whatever those opportunities showed up as.
So we've talked a little bit about your personal timeline through all of this, but what about your Reiki timeline? How and when did Reiki find you, and how did it bring you to where you are now?
So Reiki entered my life when I was a child. My dad was doing Reiki when I was about 8 years old. And so he was studying Reiki level 1 and 2 while he was in Oregon. And I just have some of my earliest memories being of Reiki. Not that he was practicing on me, but just the little tiny bits. It was like these events were planting seeds that would then blossom into what I'm doing today. So for example, listening to my dad have a conversation with our Catholic priest to get permission for him to do Reiki, and witnessing his receiving of the priest's blessing to do Reiki, listening to the door when my dad was giving my younger brother Reiki, and my brother had experienced a traumatic injury. He got hit by a car and lost his foot, and he had severe knee difficulties and pain from the amputation, right? And so he was giving my brother Reiki, and I thought I could hear it. So I'd try to spy and listen in on them. And, as most of us Reiki practitioners know, you can't really hear Reiki. That's not usually in the realm of possibility. But for those sessions, I could hear the bone pop in the knee. And so those were just a few of the experience that I got seated with. And then when I became 20 years old, I was working at a birth center in Juneau, Alaska. And a lot of the midwives who were working at the birth center were Reiki practitioners. My co-Reiki student was a Reiki master. And so she began to teach me and then integrate it into the birth work. So I could start seeing spirit babies and talking to them and talking to the spirit of the mother while she's completely disassociated from the pain levels. All of it was right on par with where I was supposed to be going. Even if I didn't start my practice at 20, it was I got a really beautiful Reiki level 1 and 2. And that just gave me such a beautiful foundation of how to integrate it into whatever work. I was mixing modalities from the start. Let's just put it that way. It was already just easy and in flow, and knew that it was meant to be part of my life, but I had to have this experience with my first husband to clear out some past life work. Like he was the magistrate that damned me as a witch in a past life, and I got, hung or whatever it was, right? Like I had to clear those past lives out so I could fully step into the confidence of who I am and my voice and my purpose, so that when it was time, that the Reiki could come into my life and flow to support others the capacity that it does today.
So you've worn a lot of different hats in your lifetime. Do you want to tell us about some of the hats that you wore before you came to ReikiCafe University?
I think the biggest surprise that most people would find is that I used to work in the insurance industry. Most people don't know that about me. I probably spent like 2 or 3 years in the insurance industry when my son was young, because I needed to make an income that could sustain me as a single mom. Right. So, and so I did that for a few years, but I had really chronic migraines, like pretty bad chronic migraines, being under the fluorescent lights and being in front of a computer all day long and handling the stress of everything else that was going on in my life. So, but I think, I've done insurance. I used to tell my accountants that I was, only half woo. I had one foot here on the earth realm, and I had one. And so I'm very much a business entrepreneur. I'm very grounded in that way. Like it's not hard for me to see the details and see what needs to happen next, and also to see the big vision of where I want to go. And so it puts me in a very unique position that I don't mind. And I like having conversations with a CPA or a financial advisor or going to business classes. Like that's all very comfortable for me. And I don't necessarily see that in the Reiki audience, that they're like, oh yeah, let's jam about advertising. Like, I'm like, yeah, let's jam about advertising. So I can really play in that space. And I think part of it was that my dad was an entrepreneur. And so he had always owned his own business. I didn't see what it was supposed to look like for a corporate person. I saw my dad work really hard. I saw him be a workaholic. I saw him work 50, 60 hours a week. The only way I could get his attention was basically to work for the company. And so the funny thing is his business was called Clark's Energy Services, and he was an energy engineer, like one of the first ones. So he does like net zero buildings and like very energy conscious. And so I always tease him now. I'm like, I'm going to start Clark's Energy Services. Clark is my, actual last name. So Clark's Energy Services is going to be our retirement name when I'm taking care of my dad and my aunt, who are both Reiki masters. And then we can have Clark's Energy Services in their retirement facility. I think that would be fun.
I love that. That's fantastic. So you've spoken a little bit earlier about how all these pieces came together to put you in the perfect place to open ReikiCafe University. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so it really was those baby steps in the beginning. And then even in the beginning, I remember going to a local business training. Like I wanted to have like one-on-one sessions, but they were like, you have to take this beginner's business course. And I'm like, okay, so it's an 8-hour workshop I need to go to figure out what a business plan is and all those kind of things. And so I took it, and I was like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I think it made it really clear that like I had much more of a business mindset than a lot of the people in the room who were also all trying to start business. Like I could see how I was going to build the brick and mortar. I could see how I was going to build online. I could see how the graduates were going to come. I could see the franchise and the 10-year down the line future. Like I could see it. And, it's been 5 years since I've made 5, 6 years since that business meeting. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm right on track. I can see right how it's going. The only blip was that, the pandemic hit and I had to close my brick and mortar, but I was already built the website out. I had already taken a 9-month online business course for business entrepreneurs. Like I was in a really beautiful spot to continue my passion and purpose in the online space. I really was prepping and ready to go, look, I know how to do the success thing in the brick and mortar. Like I had built up to 15 to 20 clients. I had 2 paying apprentices. I was teaching Reiki once a month. I was doing guided meditations weekly. Like I had all of this activity going on. And really that's like, you can't build it any bigger in a brick and mortar without employees, which I've done, right? Like I've done at all of these different angles of the brick and mortar. And so it was like when the pandemic made me shut it down, I was like, okay, one, let's take a deep breath. Let's do some self-healing. Like clearly I was going to run myself in the ground at that pace. And then we were able to quickly transition into the online space. And in the online space, like I was doing some deep healing on like the layers in which my body has been holding on to the trauma, and through like healing my autoimmune disease and all of these things while I was building out my first 3-month courses. And that was great. And it just was able to provide financial means for my family. I was the main provider for my family through the pandemic. And it was the Reiki community and the Reiki space that allowed me to do that. So I'm forever grateful. And it gave me the flexibility. I think this is the cool thing. Like, even if you have an autoimmune, even if you're not like the healthiest person, you can still build a really beautiful Reiki practice. And I'm proof of that. You know, like I was really sick, and yet I could like put these group programs together and help people on a deep fundamental level. And I enjoyed it. I totally love teaching. I love teaching. And so once I started really filling into the teaching role, it lights me up. I could teach all day long and just be like thrilled with that. So really listening to, you know, my zone of magic or my zone of genius, if you're following Gay Hendricks, like I really love that piece of it. And, you know, I spent some time doing like really high-end resorts for Reiki there. So I understood that. And I got to read a lot of books on tape during that time. So I think overall, everything was it's just been like a consistent, I almost want to say trust fall. like it's just been a consistent trust fall from that dark shadow of the soul, like that dark night of the soul, like moving forward. It's been a trust fall, and to constantly come back to, am I trusting? Am I attaching? Am I trusting? Am I attaching? Okay, let's release the attachment. Let's continue to trust. Let's continue to have faith. How can I trust and have faith more? How can I expand that even further? What is the realm? What's in the highest realm of possibility for me? And continuously doing the work. So I think the whole length of that time, there's been a huge commitment to, did I do my Reiki today? Did I do Gokai? How am I taking care of myself? Because I need to fill my cup first before I overflow it to others.
Yeah. So in that, I know that you've spoken about how ReikiCafe University really is here to help other people understand their potential and the healing that's available to them. So what would you say, in your view, your life's purpose is, and how does ReikiCafe fit into that mission?
There's a couple there, but I think one of the ones that are coming through really strong right now for me is this trusting the universe, trusting your guides, trusting that the universe does love you, God loves you, that you are a child God, like whatever language you want to use there. It's that energy of going, you listen, just slow down, listen, trust, and have faith. And even through our courses, there's a big component of, okay, if you now you have this tool of like, you know how to shamanic journey, for example, you have the tool to connect to your higher self. You have the tool to connect to your God self. You have this tool to connect to your larger, higher purpose. Let's use that wisdom and trust and have faith that it's all meant to work out the way it is. And take your past trauma and let's transmute it into like the learned lessons so that we can keep moving forward. If every person who came into ReikiCafe University learned just that one thing of how to move out of victimhood mode and into empowered mode, I would feel like my soul purpose is accomplished, right? Like there's so many people who are living in victimhood. And how can we help them and support them into empowerment and direct revelation and to self-sourcing their own wisdom, right? Like that feels like overarching higher purpose of ReikiCafe University is that. Like, yes, I want to see everyone in the world have Reiki level 1. Of course I do. And is that my purpose? Probably not. My purpose is to help people wake up. My purpose is to help people see that they can listen to their higher inner truth, their soul wisdom, their soul's voice, and say, yes, I can. Yes, I trust. Yes, I know that I'm going to be supported in the process of me developing my own spiritual business and my own Reiki profession, whatever that may be for you. And so we have a very focus on Reiki practitioners. I think part of it is that I really truly believe Reiki needs to be accessible wherever you are. And in the world right now, there's a lot of places where it's not accessible. And so I want to live in a world, I want to die living in a world that Reiki is just as accessible as massage, period. Period. And if my job is to inspire Reiki practitioners to enhance their practices so that they can go live their authentic truth and help more people and build more students and more practitioners and more Reiki teachers, then I've done my job. Right? Because I'm letting it be a trickle down effect. It doesn't all need to be me, but I'm going to do my part to say, yes, Reiki needs to be accessible.
I love how integrated Reiki Cafe University is with your life. Like, it's really not a job and then your life. They're very much one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's it. Like my life, I mean, with all of my self-care also, right? Like, but Reiki Cafe really is, who I am and what I want to be doing. Right. And so I choose my higher self purpose, my higher dream above a lot of other things. And I have this internal knowingness that is my job. I'm not supposed to be learning this lifetime how to have a perfect marriage. I'm not in this lifetime trying to figure out how to be the best mom I can be. I'm not in this lifetime trying to figure out some of these other pieces. And I think for some that might shock people or ruffle some feathers. But I feel like I'm confidently like stepping forward exactly where I need to go and letting my guides, my higher purpose, source energy lead the way. And I'll listen to that over any kind of judgment, over any kind of, negativity. Like part of me is like, I just don't care. I don't take it in because I'm leading in my truth. I'm leading in my knowingness. And so it's okay if I make people uncomfortable. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, that's part of also my soul's purpose is like, let's poke some buttons to make you comfortable so that you can question why you're getting uncomfortable. Like, what about this is making you uncomfortable? So I see that, like, I'm trying to break people out of a box, breaking them out of a conditioning that we have been sculpted into. Like, can we get rid of the box already? Like, whether it's from society or associations or whatever it may be, like, I don't fit in a box. I'm not planning on fitting anyone else into a box. And I really want to support people in their healing and their journeys and ultimately letting Reiki be worldwide.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did you feel the calling and the knowing that that was your life's purpose? And have you ever doubted it?
Well, I doubted it for years. Like, I think that was it. Like, I got the push, I got the push, I got the push, I got the push. And I'm like, no, I'm scared. No, I'm scared. No, I'm scared. No, I'm scared. Like, was my normal for decades. Well, like at least a good solid decade. And it was so much about fear around money, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to survive. And then you have people in your life going, Reiki is just a hobby. You can't make that into your job. And then finally there was that point where I'm like, you know what? F you. Like, guess what? I'm going to do it anyway. And watch me. Watch what I'm going to do. So I use it as kind of like I take the energy and I transmute it to help continue to project me forward on my timeline of success, of abundance, of expansion. Right. So, if you're going to throw hate, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to transmute that and we're just going to go even farther. So I think that, yeah, there was a lot of doubt there. But once I was able to move from victimhood into empowerment, it was, for the most part, it was pretty much like, okay, I'm good here. I'm good in making manifest. I'm good in trusting. And then it's just continuously crafting the art of that. But I'm no longer willing to step into victimhood.
So with that said, what's the vision for the rest of your life? What are some things that you want to make manifest before you transition?
So part of it, big long-term vision, which I'm hoping we're going to start off here soon, is having a Reiki Cafe franchise. And that means that the graduates of our signature programs here in Reiki Cafe University, along with some other pre-qualifiers, would allow you to choose to use our branding, our marketing, our support team for your business and your location to develop more brick and mortars. So that way, if you take, let's say, a Reiki Master's like Reiki Master teacher training course at Reiki Cafe University, you could get the distance attunement, but you could also go to one of our locations. You can get your attunement charged up there. There's the making it accessible. So having these graduates of Reiki Cafe University vetted, like, I know you. By the time you're done with our course, like, I know you. I know what your strengths are. I know what your weaknesses are. I know how to help you. I know how to support you. And then we can go help set up these businesses. Because the number one complaint I hear is that Reiki practitioners don't want to do the marketing. They don't want to do the advertising. They don't want to do the sales, right? They're good at what they do, the Reiki part, and they just need support. So there's a lot of people that are open to learning and taking our business courses and classes and learning how to do that independently. And that's fantastic. I'm there for you too. But there's also my bigger dream and vision is to have Reiki Cafe, brick and mortars, multiple locations, and letting that be amazing. And also having like a brick and mortar training facility where we're doing retreats. And so I'm seeing like tiny homes and a fire pit and like a teaching facility. Like I want it all. And I know it's in the realm of possibility. I do. And so it's all with the backbone of to expand Reiki. This isn't about me wanting to be a millionaire. This isn't about me wanting to like live on a freaking yacht in the Bahamas. Like, I don't have any of those visions. I want to provide scholarships. I want to make Reiki accessible. I want the people who are ready to commit to Reiki being their life, like I have in any capacity. It doesn't have to be as much as mine, but like, because I do believe in work-life balance. I do. Trust me, I do. And I feel like Reiki should be an approved career choice. And that's what's missing. There's still so much doubt that Reiki can be a career choice. And I want to just say, you know what? Guess what? It can. So let's get I want it to be available. I want it to be available, but also like when you're trying to sign up for your LLC and it says, what job category are you in? I want Reiki to be in there. I want it to be seen by the government that this is a valid profession and that you don't need licensure from the state. Like if we get there, and there's things that we can do. And I don't want people to be scared of it either. And that makes a lot of people nervous. I'm like, stop putting the brakes on because you're worried about the government actions. Keep moving forward. If there's more Reiki practitioners owning a business, we have more strength behind us to fight that. But you can't do that if you're stuck and scared. So keep moving forward, people.
I love seeing your fire come out. It makes me so happy to see you passionate. But what about, do you have any particular visions for personal things that you want in the future?
Reiki Cafe retreats. Once again, it's still Reiki Cafe. It's my life and I love it that way. So I think other than moving into the co-housing facility, because that's happening. That's going to be by the end of the summer. I will be living there. Like made me.
Tell us a little bit more about that. We had some community members interested in what that looks like.
Yeah. So basically, it's a very common model in a lot of big major cities, but predominantly in like Denmark, Holland, like this is a known concept where you have a smaller living habitat, if you will, like it's a condo or a townhouse or a flat, but smaller square footage. So like ours are around 1,000 square feet. You still have a kitchen, you still have bedrooms, you still have your things that you need to like live independently, but there's also a dining hall, a dining room, like a community one, so that you can sit 40 people for dinner. And so there'll be living rooms and a communal hot tub and a guest bedroom and the gardens and the labyrinth and the goats and the chickens and like all of the things that I can't afford to do on my own. Like, I don't want a farm on my own. I don't want to be living alone. Like, I don't, that's not the goal. So here you can have shared responsibilities. And so the idea is I can sign up twice a month to cook dinner for 40 people. And then the other nights of the week, I don't cook. How beautiful would that be? If you could imagine life without having to worry about dinner. Like, I think that's the biggest stress for moms is all of the decision fatigue that comes with making every single decision. That is like my number one mom struggle, is like, I don't want to have to figure out what I need to pack and for vacation. I don't want to have to figure out where we're going, what we're doing, making all of the plans, figuring out dinner, where's the food going to come from, how am I going to feed 5 different, nutritional needs and preferences and at one table. Like, it's been very difficult to do those kinds of things. And so for the last 15 years, I've been looking at co-housing communities, and the one I'm moving to is the first one in Montana. It's the one in my town. And the coolest thing is, before they built it, before they even chose the plot of land, I had a set of drawings drawn up with the atrium, with everything, and it matches very closely to what they're building. And on top of that, it's about a quarter mile away from where we originally thought it was going to happen. So like, I wasn't part of the original members. I was just manifesting on the back end. And then you compare the two and you're like, holy crap. Yeah, I probably had something to do with that. I love it. And it's everything that I've wanted. And so this is really like me saying, yes, thank you to the universe. Thank you to Reiki Cafe, because if I wouldn't be able to make this possible, had it not been for the people who have purchased courses and hired me for sessions and consulting, and people who've taken the signature programs. It is your personal investments into your Reiki education that has made my dreams a reality. And so like, thank you. Like, I love life. And I've seen so many lives change for the better from our students that they're such an inspiration. I'm like, yes, amazing. And by being in my own space on this development, like, I'll be in a more expansive energy because I don't have to worry about dinner anymore, like in so many other things, right? Yeah. And that's how I wanted to raise my daughter. My 10-year-old daughter is on the spectrum, and she's got a lot of social anxiety. She's got, demand avoidance. So she masks really well. She's definitely like, what's the right word? She's very, she can process well. She's high functioning. That is the word, high functioning. And so most people wouldn't even recognize it. But for her, I wanted to move into this community so that she could feel safe, that she has 40 adults that she can trust, 60 adults that she can trust, and go like, I can go to my neighbors. I know who everyone is. There isn't strangers in our community, and I can sit and have dinner with whoever I want and let her develop in her comfort zone so that she can start being the little entrepreneur that she is. She cracks me up. Not only does she want to start like babysitting and all these things when she moves into the community, but she's very much like, all right, mom, I'm ready to start teaching astral travel to your ReikiCafe University. I'm like, give it a few years, sweetie. So,
I love her. She's such a mini you. I love her so much.
She cracks me up, and she is very much a mini me in a lot of ways. So get ready. So in like probably 5-10 years down the road, you'll have this young little sprite of a thing who's like ready to teach astral travel and probably plenty more. I think she asked me for her Reiki master's attunement not too long ago. I'm like, you got a kid's Reiki class. Like, there's some steps. I'm always like, there's some more steps in between what you want to do and what you can do. Yeah.
Beautiful. So what in all of this, what's been the most important lesson that life has brought you so far?
Self-care.
Mm,
Absolutely. Self-care. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not in any position to take care of anyone else. And we're definitely not listening to source. And so it's the self-care, and you'll hear it again and again and again and again and again for me. Like, we must be doing our self-care, whether that is Reiki or something else that fills your cup, doesn't matter. We have to figure out what that is and do it on the regular.
mm. And what does self-care look like for you?
Self-care for me, it's usually in the evenings. Like, I really am one of those people who love giving myself Reiki when I'm going to sleep. So I'm doing that nightly. I'm not a big person on like, it has to look the same every single day. So for me, it would be more of like, what feels good in this moment? Is it a dance party with my daughter? Is it baking in the kitchen? Is it going to the garden? Is it going for a hike? And making sure those events are sprinkled throughout my life. So I'm not like hitting burnout and then like, I have to take a self-care day. Like, it's every day you're doing something with Reiki as the full undercurrent, providing that nourishment. So the daily Reiki self-care plus those enhancing activities that are individual to me. So like for me, like in the summer, like I'm in the garden all the time. I love gardening. I love cooking. That's the other thing. I love cooking. And then all winter, it's like baking. I love preserving. I'm like, okay, I'm in the middle of a move, but the raspberries are going to come on in about a week. What am I going to do? Can I make jelly this year? Like, those are hard questions for me right now.
Beautiful. So I know we have some community questions, but before we move on to those, is there anything that you wish I had asked but didn't, or any circumstances life has brought you that you feel are really important to share?
I think one thing that I want to share is, if I come off strong, if I come off opinionated, it's because I'm making up for time when I didn't have a voice.
Mm,
And I want to inspire others to remember that they have a voice. And then I'm open to conversations. I'm open to, the let's think outside the box conversations. If I'm comfortable being questioned for where I'm at and how I got here, like that doesn't make me uncomfortable. And I'm open to hearing your stories too. So if you have a different life experience that has taught you something else, I'm open and available to hear it. Like, just because this has been my journey, you're okay in having your own. Like, my journey is my journey and your journey is your journey. And I want you to step into your authentic truth. And as I ask and kind of question, like, are you in a victimhood phase or are you in an empowered phase? Do you want to move into an empowered phase of your life? And if so, this is how I can help. So it's because I can, when I get opinionated, and you hear that a lot, and especially in this podcast, because I get to express my own personal opinions, it's that is who I am after years of being silenced. And I'm no longer available to silence myself to make someone else comfortable.
Can we hear it again for the people in the back? That's fantastic.
Right. I think and more people, especially women, we need to speak our truth and not let others tell us what is normal, what is okay. And I will continue to challenge cultural and societal norms if it's not supporting our health and our growth and our beauty. Like, it's very disturbing to live in this body. like part of it's like, to be like, I see myself very much as a celestial being. Isn't my celestial home by any means. And yet to come here, it can be very uncomfortable and very unsettling. And only when I started recognizing that and my big soul's journey, my big soul's plan, have I woken up to like, and this is why I'm here. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to be in my body, but we need to like shine a light on that. Like, why do we develop autoimmune? Why does it feel uncomfortable? What's going on in the world? Like, what is this all about? These quote unquote shoulds, you have to do's, those types of things. And so that's the space we're in right now at ReikiCafe University. I don't think that's ever going to stop. It's always going to be like, let's question why we do the things that we do. Why do we hold ourselves back? Why do we make ourselves small? Like, why are we doing that?
Beautiful. Anything else that comes to mind, or are you ready to move to the community question?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we covered this one a little bit earlier, but our first question is, what is your ideal vision for RCU in the future? I know the universe takes us in ways that we would never have thought of, but in a perfect world, where do you see RCU in 40 years?
40 years? Well, I'll be heading into my retirement then at age 81. So, I probably will be have already handed off the ReikiCafe University to continue its growth and development. At that point, I would love to see a Reiki association in the States, for the United States of America. Like I'm not at the capacity right now to develop that. So beyond what I've said in the previous conversations, I do want to see Reiki having state associations where they're having city and state meetings that can be a representative for their state of Reiki, where they're going to national association meetings with each of the 50 representatives, so that we can start setting guidelines and standards for our own country and respecting all of the lineages and not letting one lineage have the primary voice. So this is, and so that's kind of like one of my visions that I haven't talked about previously, is like, we are missing this. And how can we push back on government institutionalized like demands of the Reiki communities if we're not organized? We need to get organized. And so it needs to happen sooner than later. And I keep crossing my fingers, like someone is going to step up and start doing this. And I'm happy to help. So if this is you, like if you're watching, you're in the States, like it's not something that I can fully take on my own with all the other things that I have going on right now, but it is one of my bigger visions. Some of my other bigger visions is to get more books out. I want to write books. I want to do speaking circuits. I want to be able to go and travel and train and encourage people to live their authentic truth and voice along with Reiki. So in 40 years, I'm hoping that women, particularly women, have a better voice in their communities, as well as Reiki professionals being able to sit at the table with other complementary therapists. Our career should be accepted at the table. And so we need to have associations to get us there. So beyond that, ReikiCafe retreats going on, ReikiCafe training facilities, ReikiCafe online programs, and seeing how we can influence the Reiki educational community and the business community so that everyone can move forward in their entrepreneurship and their self-development and their personal growth and all of the things.
Fantastic. Okay, so our next question, and again, these questions are coming from our ReikiCafe community Facebook group. So if you want a chance to ask Christina and I questions, be sure to join our Facebook group. But our next question is, I'd love to know your most astounding psychic moment.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, there's a lot of them. Like I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, been pondering this question, and I was sitting in the car with one of my Reiki students, and he's going to build me a loft for my new home. And he was like, well, tell me some of the stories. I'm like, well, I've seen broken bones heal in 2 days. I've seen soul retrievals. I've seen so many astounding things, but I would say probably the most profound experience that I had was getting hired to do a session for a child who was about 4 years old. And every night she would wake up screaming, how do I get my soul out? How do I get my soul out? So this wasn't from her parents. Like her mom was a Reiki practitioner this was going on ever since she could speak. Her nightmares were consistent her whole life. She lived in a very loving, supportive community on a piece of gorgeous land, like not influenced by societal things. And she was really struggling. So I was hired to do a Reiki session and find out what was going on. And I learned so much from that session that I could see holding space for her. Like I started giving Reiki, and it's kind of like the archangel showed up and was like, back up. We got this. I'm like, okay, I'll be way back here and I'm going to give Reiki. And just watching the 4 archangels come in and seeing the soul fabric being lifted out of the body, seeing the curses removed, seeing these demonic entities like be pushed back and released and cleared. And all of this, like, I don't want to say magic, but like this powerful energy. And my job was to watch and to support and hold space for. And I wasn't doing Reiki directly because they were all active. So I was really a witness. And it was a huge opportunity for me to understand what it's like to let the heavy lifters do it. And I use that phrase sometimes. And so when I say heavy lifters, it is the archangels. It is these highly evolved beings who are here to help heal. And when there's the parents' permission, the child's permission, and all of the thing where it's saying like, let divine intercession happen. This was the beautiful part. And so from that point on, I saw more and more about healing at the soul fabric level. And now it's part of our advanced shamanic Reiki practitioner training is the soul fabric, and how to read past lives and read future lives and celestial lives, and how do you find the curses and the cords, and how do you do intrusive entity removals and all the things. And it started with that session. And the child's huge healing no longer is being met by these dark entities every night. No more nightmares, fully healed, fully growing into the beautiful young woman that she is today. And it also showed me so much that we can learn from our guides. And if we know how to shamanic journey, if we know how to set our intention for those things, you can learn so much.
Absolutely. So on a similar note, our next question from one of our fantastic shamanic Reiki practitioner students is, what is the darkest thing you have been confronted with, and how did you deal with it?
I'm like, that was a lot. But other than that, I had a series, and this is the way I feel like my spirit trainers have trained me, is like, I'll get a cluster of clients with all kind of the similar issues of demons and darkness and all of these things. And one, I want to remind people, whatever the individual's spiritual or religious idea of what that darkness looks like is how it shows up. So if I'm talking about demons and devils and those types of things, it's because it's showing up in that way for the client, because that is the way they see it. It's not the way I see it precisely or in any way, because I don't necessarily attribute to that idea, right? But we do have darkness, we do have negative entities, and they're here. Like, oftentimes the earthbound ones are very much like mosquitoes. Their job is to kind of push buttons and to make you uncomfortable so that you can change your life and have better boundaries. Okay, so if you're getting poked, it's because we need to work on our boundaries. We need to work on our self-care, right? Because if we are strong in who we are, they just fall away. So another client story is that I was doing another, in her mind, it was very much a demonic depossession and confronting the devil and really helping release this energy. And I just remember she grew up Catholic, so she had a rosary and a Bible and all of these spiritual things. And like, something felt like it was in the way, like I didn't want it where the object where it was. And so I just energetically moved it over. And then on the other line of the phone, she's like, where did the rosary go? I'm like, oh, I just moved it on the nightstand, and it was on the nightstand. Like things like that would happen sometimes. And it all comes back to like the reason why I am comfortable in those spaces is because I understand the heavy lifters. I understand that I don't have to do the work myself, that we have these powerful entities that are willing to do it for us. And there's some that are specifically meant to drive off the darkness. So I don't need to be the warrior. I don't need to be the one slaying the dragon, if you will, because there are spiritual helpers that can do all of that. And so my job is to hold space and help the client through their processing, the emotional processing of it all, because oftentimes there's a reflection. The devil showed up. Actually, it was a reflection of the father who they were molested by, right? Like there's a reflection of. And so it's like there's this deeper healing going on with most clients of going, well, why are we attracting this into our life? What's the self-sabotaging behaviors that we have signed up for that are all going back to your childhood trauma? How do we heal that so that you're no longer available to have this experience? Right. And so when we can get there, that's where the deep healing comes from, because we can do cord cuttings, we can do, and negative entity removals, we can do these things, but until you heal, they're going to come back into your life again and again and again. And right, so we need to do the self-healing work. Once again, self-care, boundaries, so that you can do the work and not be affected by your client's energy. It can be their energy. It's their journey. It's their stories. It's not mine.
Beautiful. And that partially answers this next question, which we're planning on doing a full podcast episode on because it is such a deep topic. So be on the lookout for that. But our last community question for you is, what are the exact steps you take to shield yourself from a client's attachments or energy?
Yeah. So it goes back to, what's your self-care practice look like? Are you a full cup? Do you need to take a break? Do you need to work on yourself? Once you feel like I'm solid, then it's about understanding your energetic boundaries of not like, yes, the heart chakra is so amazing and wonderful, and we want to love and care for everyone. And as the practitioner, as the coach, as the person doing the sessions, you need to have energetic boundaries with your clients. So if a client comes in and they're feeling sick, if they're feeling attacked, if they're feeling whatever, your job is not, do not do this. Go, oh, sweetie, that sounds so rough. Like, oh, can I take it on for you? Because energetically you will, right? And so we need to check our empathy at the door. We can use clairsentience, but we need to check our empathy, because their journey is their journey. They need to learn the lesson out of this hardship so that they can make a new choice. And until they make a new choice, it's going to be repetitive. You being empathetic to take on their energy and their suffering, because we're an empath, doesn't actually help them. It only makes your suffering worse, right? So we need to come to this point of, your journey is your journey. My journey is my journey. Your story is your story. This is a story. They've created their reality. I've created mine. So it's like, how can we have a disattachment from other people's stories, worlds, energy? Because when you go, my energy is my energy and your energy is your energy, let any releases go to the earth, guess what? There's no more absorption as the practitioner. And we need to know it firmly. We need to declare it. We need to command it that my energy is my energy. I am not available to have my vitality siphoned off by another entity or another person. I'm not available for that. And when you have that free will choice, the universe responds.
Fantastic. Okay, so before we end, I would love to do a quick fire round with you if you're up for it.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple. Any particular shade?
No.
What's one word you say far too often?
I'm going to toss that back to you, Izzy. What word do I use?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that you say it too often, but one of your favorite words is curious. Let's get curious about that.
Yeah. I don't think I say it too often. I think more people need to get curious.
I don't think you can say it too often. Okay. If you had to choose the most transformational moment in your journey so far, what would it be?
The trends, probably that dark night of the soul. That was when I really changed my mindset.
Mm. What is one spiritual tool you believe everyone should have in their toolkit?
Reiki.
Reiki.
That's easy.
Okay. What's something no one knows about you until they get to know you, or that would surprise them to know about you?
I'm not sure if they would like, I'm one who like doesn't conform to all the societal rules in general. And so like part of it is like, as a woman, I rarely shave. I really don't necessarily get on board with that.
I love it. I love it. What's your favorite thing about working with your Reiki Cafe community team members? So myself and Chantel.
Oh my God, I love it because I can be like in my zone of magic, which is all visionary, and I see all the big things and I know what needs to happen. And I feel like I'm at the place where I'm really comfortable and trusting Izzy to delegate tasks. And that makes my life so much more expansive that I get to stay where I can continue to do the background things that no one are thinking about, like some of these big picture projects, the franchise, the book, the that no one really knows about, that's happening on the back end that I'm working on. And so I love that I can now trust Izzy to like take the steering wheel and like, hey, I need a month off. I need to get my life in order. I need to move or whatever it is. And Izzy is like, absolutely. And I love that it goes both ways. Izzy is in that space of like, I need time for my own healing. I'm like, absolutely, I'll do the things. And so this relationship has been amazing. And now saying yes to like expanding the team. Chantel will be coming on as a ReikiCafe University professor this fall, that I know and trust, like, these are her talents, these are her strengths, and we can build on that. And so that's what I'm looking for as team members come on and going, what are your strengths and how can we utilize that and go, if there's a weakness, I want it to be known so that we can either help you get more comfortable with it or just not task you with those types of activities. So I feel like it's been a huge amount of growth within myself to become kind of a manager, if you will. And I've learned a lot over the last 3-4 years in doing that. And that I continue to want to cultivate healthy leadership for the company. Because that's the way we all thrive, right? And that to allow everyone to be exactly who they are with their skill sets, with their expansion, with the knowingness that we have a bigger, broader vision, and that source is supporting us. The universe is supporting us. It's all good. And that if my ego gets in the way, like I'm in a place that I'm really comfortable if someone calls me out on it. Yeah.
What's on your vision board right now?
You know, it's so funny because I took down my vision board packing yesterday and I was like, oh my God, I think I've got almost all of these checked off. I mean, it was like the vacation that I've wanted for years. I'm going to Costa Rica this winter. So if you guys want to go to Costa Rica with me, please let me know, because I'm looking for some buddies to go with me on this like eco adventure thing. So like that was on the vision board for years. And, you know, the funny thing is like when I look back, it was something when I was around 18, I was like, I need to go to Costa Rica. I need to go to Costa Rica. And I've never gone. And now it's coming to fruition. I'm like, a part of me is like, what if something really big happens there? What am I getting myself into? Because I've known it's supposed to happen like over 20 years. Like I'm meant to have some type of experience there. So I don't know if I put it on a pedestal for so long and now it's not going to be as good as I think it's going to be, but I'm really, that's been one of the things on my vision board, is to go and experience, and then also kind of vet out spaces that we can have Reiki Cafe retreats at.
I'm so excited to see how that unfolds for you. So last question.
Yes.
If I were to ask you what you think the most important thing about you is, what would you say?
The most important, that's kind of a funny one. I'm like, the most important thing about me is that I'm comfortable in my voice and in my truth and what I speak. And also in honoring other people's voices and the way they speak. So I guess it's very much I'm comfortable like helping support people get uncomfortable, like stepping outside their comfort zone. Like I really feel like we have our comfort zone bubbles where we all like to stay. And I want to be that guide that just pushes them to at least have one foot outside their comfort zone. Because when we can move into that fear space, we get to see how actually it's not that scary. Mm. And actually that's really expansive. And so it's that, okay, here's my comfort zone. What's one thing you can do just a little bit outside your comfort zone? I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want anyone to like have flashbacks or something, but like really just kind of gently explore that comfort zone. And I think I do that a lot through everything that I do, whether it's a coaching session or a training session or on the podcast. It's like, oh, and there's our comfort zone. This is where we like to live in the love and light. And what's just outside of that so we can continue to expand as a community.
Beautiful. Well, Christine, it has been a pleasure and a joy to interview you today. Is there any parting words that you want to leave on today's episode?
I just want part of me is like, you can do it. Like you can do it too. Like you can listen to your voice and your authentic truth and trust that the universe has your back. Like trust it. Just trust it, because it can be hard and scary. I know, I've been there. And the other side is so much sweeter. It's so delicious over here. Like, come on, you guys, let's get on board.
Yes. Beautiful. Well, Christine, thank you so much for coming on your own show today. If you're interested in booking Christine as your coach or joining us for one of our signature programs, all of the links will be in the show notes. You can hop on a free 15-minute chat with Christine. She loves connecting with the community. We also have our Shamanic Reiki practitioner training, which is coming up September 17th. So if you're interested in joining us for that, let us know. Is there anything else you want people to know about how they can connect with you?
Yeah, just come on over to the Facebook group community for Reiki Cafe and know that like it's okay to message me. I'm open to that. The easiest and fastest place to connect with me is on Facebook Messenger. I'm very responsive there versus like email. I'm a little slower on that side, but I'll get back to you. But yeah, I would love to support you in like your vision, your goals, and where you see yourself in the future.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Christine, and we'll see you next time on Reiki Cafe Radio.
Thank you so much.